Episode 105 of the Big Easy Points podcast. We're getting closer to that 1 year anniversary of the pod. Today we're going to be talking draft, the pretty much only draft.
Yep.
We have our winners and losers of the draft, and then we're going to talk about the Saints, obviously. We'll start with the winners and losers. Connor, this pod is brought to you by.
Mercado, 3750 Willis Boulevard, 70065 Kenner, LA.
Louisiana, that is.
Yeah, LA, Louisiana. Sorry for lack of clarity there. But yeah, no, let's get straight into it. Everybody at Mercado's is great, obviously.
Yeah, but 2 more weeks up here at LSU, and then we can be in Mercado every day.
Not even. I'm out of here in a week.
Moving out Monday?
I'm moving out Monday.
Well,
I'm out here in a week.
Next Friday on the 8th. So I'll be here for a little bit. We might be doing some Zoom pods, I guess, then.
Yeah.
Oh,
well.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get into it. We want to start with the losers.
Yes.
All right. Biggest losers of the draft. At number 5, I have the San Francisco 49ers. And here is why. Let me pull that one. They didn't have a first round pick. They traded out of it multiple times. And then they reached on a receiver in Dazon Stribling out of Ole Miss, who's not.
I hadn't heard of this guy, and when I was in the J building when this happened, and when I saw they took Stribling, everybody like looked at each other and like who is this guy?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even remember him being a playmaker for Ole Miss. I'm sure he was, but I think this was a significant reach for the 49ers. The ESPN had him ranked as the 15th wide receiver, and what was he? The sixth one taken off the board.
Because Tate, Lemon, Tyson,
Cooper, he went in front of Chris Bell.
Yeah.
He went in front of Chris Bell, which I think is criminal. And I guess the Brandon Ayuk situation is just completely out of whack at this point. But
now they do have Mike Evans.
They do have Mike Evans. Yes, they do.
Kind of forgot about that until I was making this list. But yeah, just a weird draft.
Still just a weird pick.
And then they draft the text that the Romello height. I actually don't mind that.
I like that pick.
That's a good edge. Then they got in the third round, they took a running back, and they have Christian McCaffrey on their team, which doesn't make a lot of sense. And then they didn't get any other notable players. The rest of them
didn't have a first round pick either.
No. Well, they had one. They traded out of it
right.
I think twice. It's just very weird. I don't really like what they were doing. And then a reporter, I don't know if you saw this, a reporter asked John Lynch basically about how he's not good at draft. Like essentially that was the point of the question. It was like, why do you keep doing this when it's a consensus like not good pick or something?
Right.
And he didn't like that. Handled it very professionally, but he did not like that. Mm-hmm. Number 4, the Seahawks. Another one that was just confusing. They obviously lost Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet with torn ACL, so they needed a running back, but taking Jadarian Price in the first round doesn't. I mean, I don't really understand it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously Jeremiah Love was gonna go. It's funny. Brock and I were before we signed Travis Etienne, the Saints. That is, we wanted to get Jeremiah Love at 8. He went 3. So that was a little lofty, but I think Jadarian Price is a very big reach here. It's a weak running back class.
Yeah.
You have the one guy who's going to be a star, Jeremiah Love, and then you have guys like Contraylon Allen, Jadarian Price, and
Nick Singleton.
Sure, the other guy from Penn State. But taking him with a first round pick, I really think they could have got him in the 3rd or 4th round. Mm-hmm. I really do.
It just didn't make much sense to me. Maybe, I mean, they needed a lot of things because they lost a lot of players after winning the Super Bowl.
They lost a ton.
That's why I thought they would go corner because it's not very hard to like replace a running back. So I thought they'd go Sissy from South Carolina. Obviously, in my draft, my line.
That's who we had.
I went 1 for 32 on my draft, probably, and the only one was Mendoza. I mean,
if you went 0 for 32,
really bad. But yeah, terrible draft from the. We'll get into this. I'll just say right now. All 4 NFC West teams are my losers of this draft.
Oh yeah, you have to put it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Number 3 is the only non-NFC West team is the Vikings. We want to talk about another bad draft. They reached on a D tackle who was probably going to be there in the late 2nd, maybe 3rd round.
Did we have him going in? We didn't have him in the first round. I don't remember that guy's name.
No, and then nobody else really stands out.
Now they did take Big Citrus from Iowa State. Dominique Orange. Shout out my Cyclones. Sorry. That's fine.
No, go ahead.
I have to. No, I mean, he was a great player at Iowa State. I mean, I think that could be a good pick.
2nd overall D tackle.
But reaching on and they took a D tackle in the first round.
Yeah.
But reaching on a D tackle in the first round was this the 18th pick.
Hmm.
I don't like the pick from the Vikings. I mean, they're everywhere as a franchise right now. You have Kyler Murray as your starting. You think is going to be your starting quarterback.
I sometimes forget about that. That's
Yeah, it's
the Vikings have not been very good at drafting.
and then you took JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
And that is looking like one of the worst picks ever.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not ever since the Justin Jefferson fell into their lap, they have not been very good at drafting.
No, correct me if I'm wrong. Did a team take Jalen Rieger?
Yeah,
They had
the Eagles.
Eagles.
One pick before.
That's nuts.
You want to talk? I mean, the Eagles have certainly made up for it since then,
Yeah,
which we'll get
okay.
into that. They weren't on my winners list, but they could be up there. And then number two, I had the Rams. And here's why. I don't even have to pull it up. There's only one pick I want to talk about, and it's Ty Simpson. Um, I understand taking the quarterback to help him develop under Stafford, but they absolutely did not need to take him at 13. I think he would have 100% been there in the second round. Did they even have a second round? Like, what was their second round?
If not, you could have traded up.
Yeah.
Traded back into the second round.
Yeah.
And gotten him.
I don't understand. They only had 6 picks total, and it said quarterback was a need for them. I just don't see it. Now I really like the Tim Keenan pick in the 7th round. I think he's a really, really good D tackle. I don't know how he fell to the 7th round. Similar to how Harold Perkins fell in the 7th round, which we'll get into that later. Um, yeah, just a weird draft from the Rams. Sean McVay actually pretty much came out and said they don't really they disagreed about the pick. Him and Les Snead, the GM for the Rams. Just a weird draft. I mean, the way I put it is the team's in a win now mode, and they took a player that's not going to help them win now.
100%. I mean, Matthew Stafford right now is put like we formerly phrased it on the pod. He's put together with duct tape and bubble gum. And drafting a guy like Ty Simpson. Now, look, you could go to the Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love comparisons.
Mhm.
I could see that learning under an MVP in Matt Stafford. But like you said, they are probably the most win now team right now. I mean, with Matthew Stafford as your quarterback, and with only having maybe a year, maybe two, if you're lucky, in this window, and you're not going all in, is kind of confusing. And obviously, Sean McVay kind of was upset about that.
Right. Um, I had something for that. I completely forgot what it was, but yeah, it's just overall like I understand what they were doing, but I don't think they had to do it at 13.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. Trade back. They should have traded back and got some more picks.
Now, so you said Sean McVay came out and said they disagreed on the pick?
He didn't like say it, but it was pretty obvious he did not.
Just his mannerisms when
Yeah.
he even called Ty Simpson. Yeah.
Exactly. It was just a weird situation there. But it happens. Moving on to the biggest loser of this draft, and I don't think it's particularly close. It's the Arizona Cardinals. Now Jeremiah Love I think, is going to be a phenomenal running back in this league.
100%.
Just the Cardinals, that's like the last thing that they needed to draft with the 3rd overall pick. And I don't know if you know this, but he's now the highest paid running back in the league. With the slot bag.
Really?
He's the highest paid running back in the league, like per year. It just doesn't make any sense. They don't have a quarter. They drafted Carson Beck in the 3rd round. 3rd round pick 1.
So is he going to be their game 1 starter over Jacoby
I
Brissett?
doubt it. I would assume it's probably Brissett.
Right. Let him kind of learn under Brissett. Learn under Jacoby Brissett.
It just doesn't make sense. Like, and they went out and signed Tyler Algier. They gave him, I think it was a $12 million deal. And then they go draft Jeremiah Love. It doesn't make sense.
I didn't even realize Tyler Algier went to the Cardinals.
Yeah.
I mean, he's only, what, 2 years removed from being an 1,000-yard rusher? 3 years removed?
Yeah. It reminds me of the Genty pick from last year. So if they do have a plan here, then I guess we'll see.
Go get Arch Manning next year, maybe kind of do what the Raiders are doing
in the future. But it's very, very, very confusing right now. And then other than that, it's just a very mid draft. They went out and got, and their 2nd round pick was a guard from A&M, who that was actually a pretty good pick. He was the number 2 overall guard that they got in the 2nd round. But I thought they would go O-line in the 1st round. Obviously, I had them take him out. We know him. But he got picked by the Giants, which I'll get into.
He fell. I think Spencer Fano even went ahead of.
Fano went 9. Magno went 10. Just a weird draft all together from those 5 teams. The NFC West did not do good by any means. All 4 of them had a very confusing draft, but they'll still probably be one of the best. the business of football, just because how talented they are.
Yeah. And with us making this video, all of these players
Oh, 100%. 100.
we just talked down are probably going to be Hall of Famers one day. But that's why the game's played.
I don't think Ty Simpson's going to be a Hall of Famer. I think I might go out on a limb here and say that will not.
Yeah.
All right, now let's move to we'll do our honorable mentions. I'll do our honorable mentions for winners. I'll start with the New York Giants. Let me go find them. The only reason I don't have them on there, like in the winners, is just because I don't really understand the Arvell Reese pick. I think he's one of the best players in the draft, but they have Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and they drafted Abdul Carter last year, and they took another edge. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Who is that other edge we're forgetting about?
I said Burns, Thibodeau, Abdul Carter, and now
Our voters, yeah.
so they have, and then they traded Dexter Lawrence to then draft an edge. So they can have four edges playing the D line. It just doesn't make sense.
And your GM comes out and says whenever there were all these rumors swirling about Thibodeau possibly getting moved, he shut them down immediately.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what the Giants have cooking. They have talent, like the
Oh, no
talent's
doubt.
there,
No
but
doubt.
is it what the team really needs? Four solid edge rushers, four really good edge rushers, I guess. Probably not.
Yeah.
But they have talent.
The reason I have them in my honorable mention winners is just because I think that their first four picks I think are very, very good. They obviously got Arvell Reese, Maui Noah to bolster that O line.
Mhm.
Colton Hood, which they needed a corner, and they got him, who I thought it would be Jamon McCoy, but he didn't go into the fifth round or something.
Yeah, fourth round,
yeah,
pick one.
Yeah, he was the first pick on day 3. You're right. The Raiders, who they're on my honorable mention as well, just because they had so many picks.
Mhm.
And then they got Malachi Fields, a 6'4" receiver out of Notre Dame, who I think could complement Malik Neighbors very well. So yeah, Giants are my first honorable mention. Next one is the Titans, where the Titans are. Obviously, Carnell Tate in round 1. They're obviously they're building around their young quarterback, just like the Saints are, which we'll get into at the end. Getting Carnell Tate, and then I think their next 2 picks were slam dunks. I think Keldrick Falk at round 1, pick 31. They traded back in to get him at edge, and then Anthony Hill Jr., who at the end of last year, like at the end of last year's draft, the way too early mock draft, had him going number 1 overall.
Right.
That's how good he was. But then obviously other people passed him up, and I think he's very, very good. The Titans could be cooking though. I'm not gonna lie. They went out and signed a bunch of people. They had a good draft. They also got Nick Singleton, who's no scrub in the 5th round, to compete at running back with Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. So I like what where they're at.
Yeah, even the Pat Coogan pick.
Oh yeah, I mean
that's a great pick too. And you see, the Titans got Nick Singleton in the 5th round, and the Seahawks took Jadarian Price in the 1st round. But 100%, the Cardinal Tate pick definitely turned some heads. I actually thought they were going to go Cardinal Tate right there. Which weirdly enough, if you click on Cardinal Tate's name, he's ranked the 3rd wide receiver. Oh, they have Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson, then Cardinal Tate.
Kyle Lemon's that's
very
I don't understand that hype around Mekhi. Like
shifty receiver, but
yeah.
The Anthony Hill pick, awesome.
Yeah.
And then who they take in the 2nd round? Keldrick Falk out of Auburn. I think that was a great pick too. Very high. I'm very high on him.
Yeah. I think a lot of teams did well in this draft. Like I think this is one of the deepest drafts I've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, I feel like not too long ago, Keldrick Falk had hype around him going top 10.
Yeah, I mean,
and then he went 3rd.
I saw him in the top half of the 1st round. Actually, saw one that the Saints taking him, which would have been a nightmare. I mean, yeah, he's the 4th rated edge behind off the guys off the top of my head. Obviously, Arvell Reese and Reuben Bain, and I'm missing somebody else. But regardless, Mesidor, maybe. But yeah, Keldrick Falk, 6'5", 276 as an edge. It's very, very good.
Unit.
So yeah, we'll move on to the next honorable mention. I'll do these kind of quick. The Commanders, and the only reason is because I think, well, they only had 6 total picks, and they nailed the first 3. Sonny Styles, obviously. Antonio Williams is a very good receiver, and they don't know what's going on with Terry McLaurin. They obviously still have Debo, but he's old. And then Joshua Josephs out of Tennessee, who first I also saw a mock draft that happened in the 1st round. I don't know where that one came from. And he ended up going in the 5th round, but he's a very, very good edge. And then Katron Allen, the other Penn State running back in the 6th round. Yeah. I think this was a very, very good draft from the Commanders, even though they only had 6 picks. So shout out to the Commanders.
Yeah, shout out Swoop. Did Sonny Styles, we had him going like what, three, two
I
or
had him.
four?
I had him to the Giants at 5.
Yeah, okay, Giants at five, and he fell to seven, which I mean in the top 10, um, falling 2 picks is a lot. Um, but I really think Sonny Styles is going to be a star linebacker. Obviously, Bobby Wagner is still elite, but he's getting up there.
And he gets to learn under Bud Wagon too.
Yes, 100%. Probably no better player to learn under than Bobby Wagner as being a professional and a player. And then obviously the Saints took his brother, Lorenzo Styles.
Yes, which we will get into. The Saints are not going to be on our winners or losers. Obviously, we're just
Indifferent.
we're going to talk about the entire thing at the end. So the last honorable mention before we get into my actual winners was the Miami Dolphins. Now, it could not have started worse for the Dolphins. Let me tell you, taking Caden Proctor at 12 when they had Ruben Bain on the board, and then they let the Cowboys jump in front of them to get Caleb Downs. And then they took Caden Proctor, which look, I get it. They have Malik Willis. They want to protect him, and Caden Proctor is a very good player, but he was ranked the third best offensive tackle, and he was the third one taken. But I think they could have gotten a better pick there. And then they got Chris Johnson. I think they reached on him too, a corner out of San Diego State. He's rated the sixth best corner. I think he was the second one taken after Mansour. Just didn't make a whole lot of sense there. But then the rest of their draft was extremely, extremely good. I think they very much made up for it, taking Jacob Rodriguez, the best linebacker or the best middle linebacker in the draft from Texas Tech. And then they went back to Texas Tech, take a receiver, Caleb Douglas, their number one receiver. He was very, very good this year. They obviously don't have a receiver. They have Malik Washington as their number one.
Yeah.
So yeah, they had to go receiver, and they ended up taking another receiver in the third round with Chris Bell, who I wanted the Saints to take if they didn't take Jordan Tyson, but obviously they took Jordan Tyson. So they loaded up on that, and then they took another receiver in round 5 with Kevin Coleman out of Missouri, who was very, very good as well. So I think they made up for it after the first round, the first pick. The only reason they're not in my winners is because they took Caden Proctor number 1 or the first pick. So that was kind of confusing, but other than that, they made up for it. And they got Michael Taft from Texas.
I feel like, yeah, that's a good pick. Is that the white safety?
It is.
Yes.
How many picks?
They had a ton of picks looking at this. My favorite pick of the draft by any team was the Jacob Rodriguez pick. I think that was awesome. I know he's not the most imposing guy, but he is a great football player.
Yeah.
And look, the Caden Proctor pick, all the announcers, all the analysts were saying how it was a reach, how it was a bad pick. I really don't hate the pick. The guy, maybe if he gets a little more polished, but he has all the intangibles. Yeah. And then, like you said, the Chris Bell pick is another phenomenal one. I wanted the Saints to take him if they didn't go receiver in the first round. And I mean, the Dolphins have so many places they need to build on, and having 12 or so draft picks is exactly what you start.
13 total draft picks. I mean, I would assume at least 4 or 5 of them are going to hit. You would hope. I mean, yeah, so many guys. And they took a bunch of different positions. They went edge, guard, tight end, receiver, safety, linebacker.
That's exactly how you should address that.
Tackle, corner. I mean, they took multiple. I think is it 7 different positions? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 different positions in the draft. That's very good for a team that has to revamp their rebuild their entire team. So good job on the Dolphins. Kicking off with the winners. Okay, I messed that up. My number 5 winner was the Commanders. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, we talked about that. My number 4 is the Kansas City Chiefs. They obviously traded this, and I'm not being biased because they went out and got Mansour Lane. Losing my mind? Where's that go? But I do love that pick. Trade up, go get a corner after losing Trent McDuffie, your all-pro corner, for a guy who has potential to be an all-pro in Mansour Lane. Didn't give up a touchdown his senior year at LSU. He was, just one of the, I think I'd say the best corner to come to LSU since Derrick.
Yeah.
I mean, he was an absolute lockdown ball. Like a true lockdown ball.
There were games where teams would literally just not throw his way, not even look that way. He just completely took away a half of the field. And obviously, if you lose Trent McDuffie, you got to replace him somehow. And there's no better guy in the drafts, maybe even in free agency than Mansour.
I agree. It's just kind of crazy. They could have kept Trent McDuffie. They could have had Delane and McDuffie, which they probably wouldn't have drafted Delane. That would have been interesting. But yeah, thinking of that is kind of cool. But yeah, they definitely. They couldn't pay McDuffie, and now they get Mansour Delane, who I think could be just as good on a rookie contract. So very good on the Chiefs. They might be back. Sorry, guys, they might be back. And then they took Peter Woods, which I'm very high on, with their second pick in the first round, who gets to learn now under Chris Jones, one of the best defensive tackles ever. Um, I think that's a slam dunk as well. Will he have a big impact this year? We don't know. But I think Chris Jones could easily mentor that guy into being a very, very good defensive tackle in this league. And then I've seen one of the most underrated picks of the entire uh, draft is R. Mason Thomas at round two, pick 8, an edge out of Texas or out of Oklahoma. I'm sorry. I've heard a lot of good things about him. I also saw him play against LSU. Um, and
In the worst football game ever.
maybe ever. Might be the worst one I ever watched. Maybe worse than the 13-3 Super Bowl. But yeah, he was the 11th overall edge, and I think that is criminally underrated. I think he is a very, very good edge. He graded out in the 81, which is very high. So yeah, I think that is a very good pick. And then obviously they took Garrett Nussmeier, so I'm a little biased. Which you can make all the jokes you want. He's going to have a chance to start in week 1 with Mahomes being down with the East.
Right. Justin Fields is still there. And obviously, it's Garrett Brock. It's Garrett Nussmeier. I understand it's Justin
He is
Fields,
healthy now.
but
Okay? You can't deny he is healthy.
okay, you're right. This is true, but I think he's going to have a shot. I don't think it's a good one, but
He
I
will
think
have a
he's gonna
shot. No, he will. He will be competing with Justin Fields.
And
I
if
don't
Justin Fields loses that, then
think it doesn't matter because when Mahomes comes back, it'll be his job.
right. But if Justin Fields gets beat out by Garrett Nussmeier for a starting job, Justin Fields might have to look somewhere else. I've been a huge Justin Fields backer, but that would be something. That'd certainly be something.
I mean, God, I can't wait to see Nuss in the Andy Reid system if he wins the job. But we'll cross that bridge
I
when we
mean,
get there.
he's never gonna hang it up.
I will never hang it up. You're correct. The man was. I'm gonna go on a tangent here.
No.
No. Not about Nuss, not at all. Not about Nuss at all. It's about Brian Kelly.
Oh, gosh.
You were the worst human of all time, Brian Kelly. You tanked Garrett Nussmeier's draft stock. You tanked Harold Perkins' draft stock, who was going to be a top 10 pick.
Both for the 7th round.
And yes, top 10 pick into a 7th rounder. You had Jaden Daniels, Brian Thomas, and Malik Neighbors.
Shots fired.
And went 9-3. I could go on and on. Just, God, that man, he set our football program back 5 years, however long he was here. But yeah, I'm done talking about Brian Kelly. Moving on to number 3, which is going to kill me to say this.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The fact that, and it wasn't even like, I don't even think it was kudos to them. I think
it just fell into their lap.
I mean, Ruben Bain literally just fell right into their lap at 15, and that man is going to terrorize offensive lines for years to come.
Offensive lines that don't have Taliesin Fuaga and Kelvin Banks. Let's just put that out there.
Yeah. But I mean, just seeing when this dude got drafted, he walks up to the podium or grab his hat, doesn't even look at me. I mean, strictly business. He was not very happy to fall all the way to 15, let me tell you. So yeah, that was a very good pick. And then Josiah Trotter, linebacker out of Missouri, was another good pick. They obviously just lost Levante David to retirement. So I think that's a very good replacement. Ted Hurst, who I know is from Georgia State. They just lost Mike Evans. This dude is 6'4", 206 pounds. So like very similar to Mike Evans' build.
Yes.
I don't know how he's gonna translate in the draft or in the NFL because he's coming from Georgia State. So that remains to be seen. And then the Keontae Scott pick, corner out of Miami, was another very good pick in the 4th round.
And Bauer Sharp there in the 6th round.
Sure. They do need tight end, I guess, behind K-Dot. And I thought they'd go Kenyon Sadiq, which
if that would have happened, I would have been terrible.
That would have been really bad.
But Ruben Bain is still a great pick. Like you said, it just fell into their lap. 100%. Just fell into their lap.
Yeah. But we'll see with that one. Number 2, which I really debated putting number 1, is the Cleveland Browns. And here, bear with me here. Okay. Let me explain. Let me learn you something here. Spencer Fano, stud at pick 8 or pick 9. They actually traded down, so they got another. They got draft capital taking this guy at offensive line, which they needed. So him and Jedrick Wills will be now managing the tackle spots for whoever plays quarterback for them. Casey Concepcion, who I was very high on in the draft, I thought he was the 4th best receiver behind the obvious top 3. Excuse me. And he fell to 24, and they grabbed him. I think they traded back into the 1st round to get him, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. It says they traded. I don't know exactly with who. Okay, yeah, they traded with Jacksonville. So yeah, that's a very good pick. And then they went and took Denzel Boston. So they took 2 arguably top 5
good
wide receiver prospects with their first 2 picks to bolster that room. with Jerry Jeudy now, which they came out and said that's not going to impact Jerry Jeudy. So that big three could be interesting. And then one of the best DBs in the draft, they went and got in their fourth pick with Emmanuel McNeil Warren out of
Yes,
Toledo.
I like that pick a lot.
I feel like Toledo just been pumping out DBs lately. I mean, with was it Withers? No, Tariq Woolen. Did he come out of there?
I want to say one of those two.
And then who's the guy? Quinyon Mitchell came out of there a couple
Sure.
years ago. I mean, something's going on over there in
The
Toledo.
Rockets.
I like that pick. And then they took Parker Brailsford, the center out of Bama, who didn't give up a sack this year, and then Justin Jefferson, the linebacker out of Alabama, which is still weird to see. Also in the fifth round, but I think it's very good. And Taylon Green, who is one of the best athletes in this draft.
Now hear me out.
At
Hear me
quarterback.
out. Hear me out. Hear me out.
I know we probably know where you're going with this.
Felipe Franks.
Okay, yeah, that's not where I thought you were going. Yeah,
Okay, you can see the vision.
yes, now it's yeah. He is a 6'6", 227-pound quarterback.
My point.
Look, I don't know if he can catch a ball, but put some gloves on that man and let him go run some routes in the red zone. I think he's also, I would say he's the most athletic guy in that quarterback now.
Yes.
And I think Dylan Gabriel's time in Cleveland is now done. I don't think that was a very big shock to anybody.
Right. And I mean, who knows with Shitter.
Yeah, I'm not saying Taylor Green's going to go ahead and start, but I think he could actually.
You could give him a run for that
Yeah,
money.
absolutely. And the fact that he fell to the sixth round is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
This says one of the most intriguing players in the draft. I don't think that's crazy to say.
He is very
He's a very good quarterback. He was just on a terrible college football team. So that's why I think he fell. And then that guy they took Carson Ryan, shout out, tight end from BYU. Shout out. And then my biggest winner, and I pains us to say it. Yeah. I would say interchangeable with the Browns, but I think that their first round pick, similar to the Bucks, just fell into their lap. And Caleb Downs to the Cowboys. I mean, slam dunk.
just as slam dunk as slam dunk.
I think he's gonna be the best player from this draft. I truly believe that. And the Cowboys got him to bolster up a defense that was atrocious last year. And they were. I mean, the Cowboys really. Jerry Jones kind of cooked this offseason, which kind of sucks to see. I guess maybe I haven't really been the biggest Cowboys hater, just because Saints don't play them much.
Right. And it's not like they've been uber competitive lately.
Exactly. But this might get me to hate him again. And I don't really hate Dak Prescott. Maybe he's from Louisiana. I hated him at Mississippi State.
I like Caleb Downs as just a player, person. Like all the things I've seen him do, I really wanted the Saints to take him when he was right there. But literally, like for the Cowboys at pick 11, this could not have gone better. Now they traded up to get Caleb Downs just to make sure. But him falling to 11 that's really kind of crazy to me.
Yeah,
really is.
I mean, I remember when we were watching because we watched it together, and everybody in the room was like, we were wondering if there was an injury or something that nobody knew about because he just kept falling and falling.
This was a guy that I thought would have a better chance of going top 5 than falling out of top 10.
But that's how the cookie crumbled, and he's now a Dallas Cowboy because of course he is. And then they went out and they did kind of reach on an edge in Malachi Lawrence, but I still think it was a very good pick out of UCF. He's a stud. He's 6'4", 250, coming off the edge. So we'll see about that. I think the Cowboys defense is going to be solid this year. By no means do I think they're going to be elite, but they definitely addressed it in the offseason.
If they could just be like 22nd and not 32nd with
some of
their offense is going to be insane.
Similar to what we say about the Bengals.
Right.
They're like NFC version of the Bengals, which we'll talk about them real quick before we talk about the Saints. I genuinely almost put them in my losers, other than their first pick, which I kind of liked. And Cassius Howe out of A&M at edge, a horrific draft
for Cincinnati.
Yeah, just no guys that are going to impact their team. I think maybe a guy like Takario Davis at corner, he's kind of interesting, but other than that, it's just a bunch of I don't really understand. But the Cassius Howe pick I think was very good. They obviously took a A&M edge last year, and that didn't go too well with Shamar Stewart. And then they went out and got Cassius Howe to join Dexter Lawrence, which the Bengals also tried to address on defense in the offseason. So
that's going to be interesting. I like where the Cowboys are at more.
Well, 100%. So, but I mean, at least they tried.
They tried.
They're trying to get Burrow in the Super Bowl. But now let's throw this out of here and let's talk about the New Orleans Saints.
Let's get it.
Obviously, we know who they went first round with George Tyson, which we obviously just mentioned that we wanted a guy like Caleb Downs, but and by no means. The reason I said that is because I thought Tyson would have probably been off the board at 8.
Really.
Um, I did until like some of the injury history came up, but I'm not by any means mad at this. I like that they're trying to build around their young future star at quarterback, while they have him on a rookie contract. And this is kind of the guy that Saints needed at receiver. This is the guy we've been asking for. The bigger receiver, he's 6'2", 203. I've seen a Jamar Chase comp, not like the way he plays. Their playing style is very similar. He's more like he's kind of goodness. He's kind of a deep threat, but also a possession guy. I watched his highlights earlier. I'd say he's a bigger version of Olave in terms of like his route running, getting open, coming across the middle of the field, always being open, stuff like that. So I think
He's more physical than a lot.
yeah, I mean him and Olave, he makes more contested catches than Olave, and I'm not that's not a diss to Olave. I'm just saying.
Okay.
But I think him and Olave being on the outside is gonna be
Oh,
very
it's going to be
fun.
awesome. And then you can have another big body, Devon Bailey.
Mhm.
Let's not forget about him.
And another big body that they drafted in Bryce Lance in the 4th round. But we'll get to that. We'll just go down the
Yes.
list.
Yeah, we'll get that.
Kristen Miller, I think, was a very good pick at D tackle from Georgia, which they needed to address D tackle. They had lost, was it Burgess or something? They lost D tackle. Wasn't anybody crazy, but they needed a younger
Christian
guy.
Boyd?
No, he's still he's always injured.
Bro,
And Brian Brzee hasn't really been what we thought he would be
no.
out of the 1st round. So
Very frustrating, man.
and Christian Miller, I think, had or Kristen Miller had a quote that he wants to run through your face. So shout out. Always take the Georgia guys. They actually went back to back Georgia guys with Oscar Delp, which was interesting.
Yeah, this pick, it really kind of, as a Saints fan, it gives you a little, PTSD from when we took Adam Troutman around this time. Um,
Yeah. Uh,
Oscar Delp only had 200 or so receiving yards his last year at Georgia, which I
I don't think the
understand.
stats tell the whole story.
Right, right. But what I'm saying is you would like to have seen it,
Yeah.
and you haven't really seen it yet. I'm not saying he can't get there. I mean, he's 6'5", 245. He can probably make a damn good contested catch. But you paid Jawan Johnson a ton of money, um, and you didn't take a single defensive, or you took one defensive back in this draft, and you didn't do that till the 7th round or 6th round. So I don't hate the pick. I think he can be good, but that's just my thought
Yeah.
process.
He is a pretty good run blocker, which the Saints did need at tight end.
Right.
But I think I do trust Kellen Moore. I mean, he's an offensive
Yeah,
guy. If he
yeah.
saw his guy, he thinks he can develop him, then
I
go
mean,
for it.
Dallas Goddard had like a huge year
Exactly.
under Kellen.
It really didn't make much sense seeing that we did just go get Noah Fant as well in the
Yeah,
offseason.
you also got Noah Fant.
But I trust what Kellen Moore is.
Yeah.
So maybe Noah Fant doesn't even make the roster. I don't see that happening since we did pay him. Was it a 1 year deal or was
I
it?
think 1 4 year or 1 year 4 million.
Okay, so
there was something.
they might be able to. I don't. We'll that'll be interesting to see. Their next pick, Jeremiah Wright out of Auburn, who
I like this pick.
I don't mind it. I think he can
I like
compete
this
with
pick.
Cesar Ruiz.
Right.
I was really really nervous. Connor can attest this. Right when the Saints were about to pick in round 1, for some reason I just thought I was going to hear Francis Mauigoa's name, and I remember saying, "Don't draft a lineman here. Go get one in like the later rounds and see if you can hit on that." And thank God they did.
I think this is the guy that they could hit him.
We don't know if he's going to hit, but he's huge. He's a 6'5" guard,
Yes.
6'5", 330-pound guard. Who I mean, it's not going to take much to beat out Cesar Ruiz, but like this guy, I think could have a chance. Just a 6'5" as a guard is incredible. I'm very excited about this pick. If you couldn't tell. Moving on, Bryce Lance, who we talked about. You've got to.
We know who they picked. Lorenzo Styles.
Yeah. My computer just died. Sorry. Yeah. Bryce Lance, I think he's 6'3". He ran a 4.3. He's 6'3", 205.
6'3" vertical.
And ran a 4.3 at the combine. So kind of like a Devon Bailey who can stretch the field almost. There's gonna be a lot of receivers. We're gonna have receiver depth this year with the New Orleans Saints.
You still have Jalen Polk.
Caleb Polk. And then we drafted another guy who finally drafted a guy at LSU in Barryon Brown. I don't think he's going to really contribute much at receiver. I think if I had to pick right now, your two kick returners slash punt returner is Barryon Brown and Lorenzo Styles.
Really.
Because Lorenzo Styles was a kick returner at Ohio State. He had the first kick return touchdown at Ohio State in 15 years this past season. He ran a 4.27 at the combine. I think he can also fill the nickel where I want to Taylor left.
I
Um,
think Barry on Brown can really be a difference maker as a specialist.
Yeah.
I mean, the Saints have ever since that 1 year of Deontay Harris, it's
Yeah.
just been really tough with guys back there.
And then they had Rashid Shaheed, which
Right.
was good for a little bit, and then we traded him obviously. And then last year I had to watch Dante Pettis, which I'm no shade to Dante Pettis. I'm sure you're a great guy. One of the worst returners I've ever watched in my life. I mean, it was like maybe he was getting 5 yards on a punt return, and then kickoff returns were a nightmare. They barely got back to like the 20-yard line. It felt like with didn't Estime and Evan Hall return kicks.
Evan Hall was back there.
Yeah.
I don't know about Estime, but Evan Hall.
Maybe not Estime.
That's what I'm saying. Like Evan Hall, and now you're gonna have, like you said about Lorenzo Styles, but I think Barry on Brown really can turn some heads.
And Evan Hall just got released. They made a bunch of moves today. Evan Hall got released. There was a tight end that got released who is from the UFL. So, sorry. I want to get into this too after we're done.
Okay.
Because LSU dodged a bullet. Let me tell you that. Whatever. Anyway,
It's
the
around.
Saints made a couple moves. They Samare
Toure. Yeah.
they released him. Okay. Yeah, they made a couple moves, which there's going to be depth. I don't think the years of seeing Marquez Callaway and Ronnie Bell as your wide receiver one
They're
on
gone.
game
They're
days.
long gone.
Yeah, they will not be here anymore. So yeah, that's and who's their? They made another pick, but TJ Hall at corner. Maybe he blossoms. I don't know.
So the thing Saints fans need to now turn their heads to is extending Olave, getting something done there. Because I mean, if you can lock up Olave and then have Shuck, ETN, what's left to Etchen, what's left to Kamara, and then your receiving depth, and then maybe Oscar Delp turns into something big. The Houdats could be looking up.
And you mentioned Kamara, and that just made me think of Cam Jordan, and I think his time in New Orleans is probably over because the Saints did trade for Tyree Wilson.
Now he was hyped when we traded for him.
True, but I don't know. I don't think they would go out and trade for an edge when they have Carl Granderson still on the team and Chase Young, and they just went out and traded for him. I think Cam Jordan might be gone, whether it's retirement or a different team, we'll see. Or he can stay and mentor a guy like Tyree Wilson to unlock his potential. Because Tyree Wilson was the seventh pick in the 2023 draft out of Texas Tech. He was very highly rated, just hasn't really
Worked out.
translated much in the NFL. But we saw Chase Young have a career resurgence last year. Could we see a Tyree Wilson resurgence? Obviously, Brandon Staley liked what he saw, so to go out and get him. So I trust that. But yeah, anything overall, what'd you give your grade for the Saints? Saints draft?
I'd give the Saints a B plus.
That's
I think it was a great. I think it was a solid draft. I would have liked to see maybe a little more defensive back picks, but it's okay.
I agree with D plus or B plus. Sorry, B plus. Would like to see him. I would have liked to see him go more defense with some picks. Do think they took too many receivers. But I still think it's a very good draft nonetheless. So yeah, that's gonna do it with the draft. And there's one more thing I want to get into, just real quick that broke today about Brendan Sorsby, the
Out of nowhere.
quarterback out of Texas Tech, who LSU was, right there, almost got him to come here. Ultimately, it landed on Sam Levitt. But Brendan Sorsby just checked into counseling or something for a gambling addiction. And I don't think I've ever seen that.
I haven't.
Especially from an athlete, I guess you could say professional athlete. College kids are professionals now.
Yeah.
Just very weird situation. LSU dodged a bullet, like I said. With that,
I hope Sorsby can figure it out though.
Yeah,
Because that's just a bad situation.
I do think he's a very good quarterback. But yeah, just a weird situation there. We haven't really talked much LSU football. Well, I guess we can start to get into it since LSU baseball's probably over with. Not probably. Their season
We don't even need
all but over.
that.
Yeah, we're not talking about that. If you missed it, they got swept for the third straight week. Their season's all but over. But yeah, that's gonna do it for 105. The draft recap. I'm not wearing my Saints gear, but
Who dat?
you see it in the background. Thank you for watching, and Mercado, we will see you soon, and we'll see y'all for episode 106.
Can't wait.
Peace.